I guess what hurts me the most is that the problems that I'm seeing appraisers have today are the same problems they had before we even had certification. They don't take the time to work the appraisal process, or they don't know how to be effective in their time management and their tools and their resources to be effective.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome back to the program, each and every one of you. Folks, amazing person coming up. You're going to love this person, love this guest. She's been on before and just has so much wisdom and joy to bring to the program. Can't wait to talk with her again. But first, I want to remind you that we are sponsored by three great companies. One, of course, being A La Mode. A La Mode is the software. And folks, that's what it is. It's software that helps you to be more efficient, to be more effective at what you do. It's software that will save you time and thus save you money. Check them out. Go to alamode.com or call them at 800-ALA-MODE. Another company saving you about 30 to 60 minutes per report. Folks, think about that for a second. 40 minutes on average per report that DataMaster will save you and help you to do a more efficient job and higher quality at the same time. Check them out by going to datamasterusa.com. That's Datamaster. Don't forget to put USA.com. Finally, we are sponsored by Working RE Magazine. Great people over at Working RE, keeping up on what's going on in our profession so that you don't have to. Now, I want to be clear. You have to, but it makes it easy because you just go to Working RE and they have all kinds of information about what's happening and the changes that are going on. You need to subscribe to their free blog. It's workingre.com, workingre.com. All right, folks, I want to welcome back to the program my dear friend, Diana Jacob. Diana, welcome back. I just love it when you're on the program. Thank you so much for joining us.
I love being here. I really do, Dustin. You are a person who just lives by example, what I believe is important for all of us to do. You know, we are as good as the wise counsel we surround ourselves with. And what you do with this program is you allow us to bring different people into our arena and say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. Now I know something new. So thank you.
You're awful kind. Thank you. I don't want to dive in too far without sharing your credentials and the experience that you've had. Diane, of course, has worked for over 30 years as an appraiser, Louisiana, Texas, even North Carolina. She has experience with single family, multifamily, commercial properties. She's done work as a reviewer. She has been a consultant for litigation and served on the Texas Appraisal Licensing Certification Board as a mentor. We talked about that last time you were on the program and what that entails. She's an AQB certified USPAP instructor. And I've taken a class from Diana. She's one of the best USPAP instructors out there. And just love you to death, Diana, thank you for coming back. We're going to talk about something kind of interesting today. I'm going to let you introduce the word and then let's dive into it, shall we?
Absolutely. I wanted to talk today about the word efficacy. I become fascinated when I hear words that aren't used that often. And with COVID, we kept hearing from Dr. Fauci. And Dr. Fauci was telling us, you know, how to survive during the pandemic. And then he came to us and said, let's talk about the vaccines that are on the forefront. But he was cautiously optimistic. And then when the vaccines came on board, he said, use the word efficacy. There was a different efficacy with the Johnson & Johnson versus the Moderna versus the Pfizer. And I became fascinated with the word. And I was like, I have to look that word up. I have to understand that word better. And when I looked it up, I recognized that it was just directly related to appraisers. Even though we're not talking about appraisal practice with the pandemic, although we are, sure. When you look at the word means the power to produce an effect. And when you talk about the power to produce an effect, then what we're talking about is we're talking about an appraiser's practice and the power they have to be a positive effect on the decision making that's so needed from the industry users, and they need it from appraisers. So I started thinking, I wonder if we've done an efficacy check. You know, how does an appraiser check their efficacy? Because the efficacy, which is the opposite, which means to fade or disappear, is not what we want to do. And with appraisal modernization now being the hot topic of the day, you know, you start asking yourself, what is it that I have that I need to make sure they are receiving? Where's my value? And did I define the value by what I think I'm doing? Or did I define the value by how well I'm meeting my clients' needs?
Ooh, okay.
And I think that's something we have to talk about.
Well, let's start with this foundation, because I love this word, and I'm with you, Diana. I love learning new things. In fact, I used to do a word of the day. I used to memorize a new word every day. This was years ago. I mean, high school time. Yeah, I was kind of a geek, but I remember that's where I learned the word ostracize. And I still, it's not a word I'd heard of before, at least back then. And I use the analogy in my head to, I use mnemonical devices so that I can remember things. And ostracize, I thought of an ostrich putting its head in the sand, right? So you ostracize yourself from others, and I've always remembered that. But you're talking about a word that I think most people think they know, but I think they actually know a different word. Do you know what I'm saying here? So let's talk through that. When you say efficacy, you're not talking about efficacy.
Mm-mm.
Okay, talk to me.
I want us to understand our role in this whole business of appraising, and so much of the focus is on, of course, mortgage lending.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have found that appraisers are still wrestling with is when they get asked a question about their appraisal report, specifically when they get asked about adjustments. They just kind of wiggle woggle back and forth and say, well, I just don't understand. I don't understand why they're asking me that. An appraiser the other day, I said, what did you use for your gross living area adjustment? And his response was, well, either 30 or 40. That's what I always use. And I was just completely taken aback. And I said, well, what about your market? He said, well, what about it? And I said, well, what do they say? Well, I don't know what they say. I say 30 or 40. It seems to work. And I realized, oh my goodness, what a disconnect, that we haven't learned how in this modernization that we're going through to really effectively understand what our clients need. And what they need are credible appraisals. And what they need are reports that are reliable. And when we give them that, when we're clear about what we've done, then we know. This is what problem they have. I don't know that we define our own problem as appraisers in our role as appraisers with our different clients, and certainly not in mortgage lending. That's where it seems to rise up. And so I thought, why don't we connect to one another in a better way? Now, we're seeing a lot of software come out.
Sure.
But do we know what it's doing? Do we understand how it thinks? Do we recognize whether it's a good output or a bad output? A computer is only going to give you the results of the input you give it. It doesn't decide if it's good or bad unless you have set up a model to judge that.
Right.
And so you start asking yourself as an appraiser, what's my practice doing? Am I really measuring up to what I need to do for my clients? And I think that enjoins a networking, much like the program that you're having. And you have a program. I know you don't like to talk about it much because you're
I got lots of
but I get excited every time I think about this program you have called Masterminding. It's just a wonderful program because what it allows is for a place for appraisers to come and ask and discuss questions. I got asked the question just a couple of days ago. I get something back from the lender, and they're saying collateral underwriters have said my adjustments are needed in the time adjustment arena, and I don't understand. And they're coming up with big, high numbers. And so I suggested to the appraiser, I said, did you consider it? Oh, yes, I've always considered it. I just never knew how to do it, so I didn't do it.
Right.
Now, that's just an honest answer.
Sure.
Much better than the one that said I always use 30 or 40, whatever I feel like, because at least the appraiser who didn't do it because they didn't want to do it wrong. How easy that would have been to fix months ago, back when they first started realizing the market had changed. And where does that come from? What do we do as appraisers to keep up with the changes and produce something that is relevant and reliable because it represents a credible analysis?
Right.
So when I talk about efficacy, that's what I'm talking about. How effective are we in what we do?
Don't take offense at this question, because I'm playing devil's advocate. I think I understand where you're coming from, and I like to believe that I care about these things. But what about the listener who's saying, "Who cares? You asked me to do a job. I'm going to do the job. I'm going to come out with a value, and then I'm going to move on to the next job. I mean, why should I care about efficacy? Efficacy. See, even
Well, whatever it is that Dr.
why
Fauci
should I
said it
care
had,
about this? Why should I care about this?
you know, I think about that and I almost chuckle, which is probably the worst reaction you can have, but I have a tendency to laugh at inappropriate moments, like there's a name for that. But it would be like me saying, well, I went online and I dialed that service that says they provide sitters, and I ordered one, and they're going to be here at 7, so I can make sure that I, am there to meet my friends at 7:30. And nobody did any checking. What if Manson shows up? What if we told the kids, stay in your room, I'm about to go open the door and let the sitter in, and you won't see me when I come until I get back. The sitter's going to come. They've never met the sitter. And they're like, oh gosh, my parent is leaving. There's a stranger that's coming in the house. And what kind of impact would that have? Now, it could have been Mary Poppins that showed up, and I'll be begging to be mama all over again for the rest of my life because I can't do it as well as Mary Poppins. But not checking it out. Oh my goodness, I had an obligation, a responsibility, and I made a commitment to do the best I could do. And when I talk about that, I do talk about appraising, and I say, what's my job? And my job is to, one, interpret the market,
right?
And two, make it connect to the problem of solving for the value, if it is an appraisal, or the quality of the work, if it's an appraisal review.
Love it. We're talking with Diana Jacob, wonderful friend of the program, a wonderful friend of mine. I'm going to pause here, Diana, and then when we get back, I want to talk about talk about the pandemic. You brought it up, and maybe some situations that we as appraisers can better show our value by utilizing this word that you brought up, the efficacy. I want to pause here, remind you that we are sponsored, of course, by 3 great companies. One of them being Working RE magazine, folks. On probably, I don't know, occasional basis, maybe every other day, maybe every third day, I get an email in my inbox. And I know what you're saying. Well, Dustin, I don't have any more room for inbox emails. I don't want that. Well, that's okay. I highly recommend that you take some time to sign up for the free newsletter, the free articles that are sent out through Working RE. Sometimes you'll be interested, sometimes you won't, and that's okay. When it goes to your inbox, take a look at it, look at the subject line. I would say maybe half of the time, maybe I shouldn't admit this. I love you, Isaac, but half the time I admit it, I will delete it. It just doesn't, speak to me. The other half of the time it does. And I at least once a week read a great article from Working RE magazine that helps me to stay in the know as far as what I need to do. Now, then I translate that into my business. What does that mean going forward? All these changes that are happening in the world, folks, we need to be aware of them. It's our chosen profession. WorkingRE.com is on top of it. Again, it's WorkingRE.com. Data Master, of course, saving time, helping appraisers to have a high quality of work. Diana talked about technology and the way that it's changing and the way that it's helping appraisers. But if we don't know what it does, it doesn't help us much, right? Data Master is so easy to understand because it's simply taking the data that you choose, that you as the appraiser make the final decision on, and simply putting it in your report so that you have a higher quality report, and most importantly, save time. Datamasterusa.com is where it's at. Don't forget to add USA to that, datamasterusa.com. Finally, sponsored by Alamode. Alamode, of course, is the software that helps appraisers every single day to be more efficient, to be more effective, to be able to really allow you to focus on what it is that you're good at, and that is appraisal. Don't worry so much about the technology as far as how it works. Just know that it does work and understand what's going on, and Alamode helps you to do that. It's very transparent. It's very transparent what they do. We're talking side-by-side view. We're talking mobile. We're talking so many efficient tools that allow you to be more successful. It's alamode.com. Again, alamode.com. Welcome back to the program, everybody. We're talking with Diana Jacob, a great friend of mine, great friend of the program. Welcome back, Diana. Appreciate you coming on.
Well, I'm just glad to be here. I really am. I love being able to share with people what I've been exposed to, what I know about what's going on in the world, and how I see appraisers being effective at practicing during what has been considered a very dangerous time. I mean, I'm sure everybody's, asking the same question. Did you get in line? Are you on the list? Have you had your first dose yet? Mm-hmm. Oh, I've had my first dose. I'm on my second. I've had my second. And honestly, I have just this week to finish, and my second week after my second dose will be up. And as my doctor said, I will feel good about you leaving the house and venturing out with your face mask and doing your job. And I was like, well, it's all about you. That's why I'm here.
You got to be that doctor, right? That's great. That's great. Well, let's talk about the pandemic for just a little bit. And I'm going
Okay.
to ask you kind of a controversial question. Do you think that appraisers missed the boat when it came to the pandemic and the opportunity to rise up and show the world why we are so valuable?
I do. And I
Yeah.
should have thought about that a little longer,
Hesitant.
shouldn't I?
Yeah.
That means I've thought about this before.
I think you have. I think you have. So talk to me. Where did we miss the boat? What should we have done that we failed to do?
We should have trusted ourselves, our judgment, our ability to discern all of the data that was being thrown at us. When I sat and watched movies when I was young, I used to love to go to the movies downtown Harrisburg, Arkansas, a little 4-block town. And oh my goodness, when they would show that scary movie, I was right there. I was ready to squeeze my popcorn and throw my Coca-Cola on everybody. They had a show called The Invisible Man. And I thought, oh no, I have to walk home by myself. What if that invisible man is there? And that's really what the pandemic was. And we let that overwhelm us to the point that we thought, I don't want to be a needed worker. I don't want to be one of those necessity jobs. I want to be able to sit back and claim I can't do it. But there was not, fear is something that we have to work through. I'm not saying ignore it, but we as appraisers should have said, okay, we have a situation here. Let's talk about these alternatives that we've been talking about all along. We can do a job for you and maybe change the way we go about getting some of our data, but our service doesn't have to miss a beat. Our credibility doesn't have to miss a beat, and your reliability can be there because you and I have already created a bond of trust. Right. Instead of saying, well, I don't know, I don't think I can do that right now, with this pandemic. I mean, I saw appraisers panic and react so violently to their clients who they themselves were fighting the dogs that needed to be scratched and the kids that needed to be educated because they were working from home too. I mean, everybody had to switch gears, and we didn't do it very gracefully. I don't think, my personal self. I felt like we were all out there learning to dance for the first time, and boy, did we step on some feet instead of glide through and show people that, you know what, you don't need to be worried about the value. Worry about other things. Worry about your family. Worry about where you're going to get toilet tissue. Worry about whatever it is you want to, but don't worry about this value because I got you covered. I know what to do. We all knew what to do. We all know the appraisal process. We just need to do it. That's my thoughts.
Gotcha.
Do you have other thoughts?
No, I love it because one of the things that I've noticed is, and I'm going to use the word value, and no pun intended here, but when I talk about go create, I often have this, this phrase, go create some value. And when I say go create some value, what I'm talking about is value for others. I'm not talking about appraised value. I'm not talking about creating, reports that say a certain thing. I'm talking about the value that we can create for each other. For example, Diana, you're creating value for every listener right now. You're creating value for me by taking time, unpaid, I might add, to be here and to share your wisdom and your knowledge. And it's just fabulous, right? But one of the things that I've noticed, and this is just my personal opinion, is, we've got these waivers, we've got AVMs, we've got bifurcated products, we've got desktops, we've got all of these things that quote unquote threaten the world of appraisers. And here we are in a pandemic this last year and had an opportunity to say, okay, you know what, we don't know what's going to happen, but I can tell you one thing, an AVM is not going to give you the same level of analysis and understanding and knowledge that an appraiser can. And I hope that there wasn't very many that missed that boat and that opportunity to quote unquote create value for other appraisers. I really think this comes back to the word that you presented to us this morning. The word efficacy. I think they relate completely.
I couldn't agree with you more. And by the way, as a side note, I never once thought you misplaced the word when you said go create some value. I understood exactly what you meant. That was like me. I got criticized for calling myself, long before there was one, the appraiser's advocate. And I got criticized for that, saying, oh no, you can't, use SPAP and all this, and you can't do it. And sometimes I just wonder how tight our clocks are wound, because people listen and they want to hone in on these words or these phrases. And what I want to say is, listen, if I have said something that you may have misunderstood, well, ask me. Yeah. Don't run around saying I shouldn't say that.
Right.
So yes, I agree with you 100%. Wonderful. We need to be better at what we do. And the first thing is trust in what we know and stop being afraid. Be confident and show why. An AVM's not going to tell you if a dog died in the house, or if the mirrors got busted, or if there's rats running around. An AVM's not going to see all of that. An AVM, and even with the great data that we get I was so upset when I saw this collateral underwriting conclusion about what the adjustment should be. And I said, well, how far did they go to get their data? What information did they have? And when you use such big data and you don't know how to fine tune it, the appraiser takes you one at a time. And they say, you're special. I'm going to devote my time to solving just your problem. I'm going to look at everybody else, but I'm going to focus my attention on you. Mathematically, an AVM has a model that has to be created and defined, and more often than not, it's defined by the independent variables that favor the cause of a client. Appraisers don't do that.
Yeah, not enough.
This is it.
Not enough. So wrapping it up here, let's just ask the question. I'm curious of what's your opinion. What is our efficacy as appraisers?
If I had to give a percentage, we're certainly not an A.
That wasn't. We'll take.
That's not very positive, is it? But I don't see in the majority an A. I see from, and again, listen, let's tender my opinion with the fact that I deal only with people who have problems. I don't deal with people who have said, boy, I did a good one today. Let me share with you. So with that, recognizing the problem, I guess what hurts me the most is that the problems that I'm seeing appraisers have today are the same problems they had before we even had certification. They don't take the time to work the appraisal process, or they don't know how to be effective in their time management and their tools and their resources to be effective. So I would say we're probably somewhere around a C, C minus.
Well, we can only get better. Diane,
sorry.
You're a lovely person. Great wisdom today. And I think we as, the good news is we have opportunity for improvement. I think we've learned that today. Diana Jacob, you have an open invitation anytime to be on this program. We love having you. Thank you for taking time, my friend.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.